Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. I think it's safe to get out here now. Everything's been on an hour, and effectively the extractor and inlet fan should change all the air in here in about 20 minutes, so it's had plenty of time. I thought I'd assess what I've just done and cost effectiveness and everything like that. Because actually what I've just done with the smoke, with the fumigator, was a little bit of a faff, but should be an awful lot more effective than what I've been doing. This is basically what's available to me. You've got the Bravado Ultimate Bug Killer ready-made. That costs about £6 and obviously has to be applied to each plant individually, all the leaves, underside of the leaves, stems, base of the plant, and at individual plant level. That's actually quite a faff when you've got over 200 plants, yeah? And fundamentally hasn't been doing its job properly. Now, you can get that as a concentrate and mix it up yourself. I have found that by accident I mixed it up a little stronger than it should have been once, and it marks the leaves, and it's a permanent mark. It actually does some cell damage if it's mixed up too strong. If it's mixed up at the recommended strength, all you've done really is replicate this, yeah, and this is very expensive. Okay, it lasts quite well because it's a concentrate, so it's more cost effective than the spray, but a faff. You've got to mix it up, and then you've got to rinse your sprayer out thoroughly and everything afterwards, so it's a bit of a faff, and it's still at individual plant level. You've got to pick the plant up, make sure you've covered the whole plant, yeah, times 200 plus orchids. This is the only viable alternative, and I have been using this recently, and I don't think this comes as a concentrate. I think you can only buy it as a ready-made. Again, it's not that cheap, and it's at individual plant level. Again, you've got to pick the plant up, spray it thoroughly, make sure you don't miss any bits, etc. So all three of these come into the same sort of category. They're a faff to use for doing a whole collection, and in addition to that, they haven't been doing their job properly. I mean, I've sprayed crawler stage scale with those and absolutely soaked them, and they're not dead. It's not doing its job. And even with the mealy bugs, I think there's some survivors. So this has not been working well. I've had a go with this. This is not cheap. One of these smokes is £9 something. And it's a little bit of a faff to use, and obviously there's some serious safety issues with this. Fumigating type smoke can only be used in a confined space that can be closed off and then incredibly well ventilated once it's done its job, yeah? But what job has it done? Let's have a think. It kills flying and crawling insects. Okay, so mealybugs should now be dead. Crawler stage scale should be dead. Any of those, wood lice or pill bugs as they're called in some countries, should be dead. Ants should be dead. Any other flying insects that might be in here, things like these fungus gnats that my pinguiculars haven't managed to deck, they should be dead. Yeah? Now, I don't know whether I've got spider mites as such, because they're virtually impossible to see. As I say, you normally find out you've got them after the damage is done. And the damage is then permanent. So that these are not good critters to have around. And because of the very, very long period of very hot weather and my inability to keep the humidity at a suitable level, it's possible there's some of them lurking around that I haven't even seen yet. They may be in low numbers, but nonetheless, if they get ideal conditions, they will spread and they will go from plant to plant. They're dead. Right, survivors. Eggs. I don't think a fumigator would kill eggs, yeah? I'm not sure it would kill adult scale that have got that hard limpet-like waxy sort of shell above them. I don't know whether it would get inside that. So there could be some survivors, yeah? Casualties of war. There's probably a few spiders that might have been out here that will have ceased to be, basically, which is a shame. I've got nothing against some spiders lurking around in here, but there's certainly nowhere near enough to deplete the place of other sorts of bugs that harm the orchids. So, and the beauty of using the smoke is the whole collection gets done in one go. Now there's no smell in here. It actually smells a little bit of rain because we've had a couple of showers this morning, so obviously with the inlet fan drawing in the air from outside, it almost smells like I've had a shower in here, which is quite pleasant. Nice fresh smell. There's no residual sort of anything on the leaves, no dust or anything lying around. Everything's clean, and it's done the whole collection in one go. And I did very little. I didn't pick each plant up individually. So for ease of use and probably cost effectiveness and real effectiveness, the fumigating smoke does the job. I assume it has actually done the job. It's difficult to tell. If you've ever had mealybugs, they don't move much. So it's difficult to tell whether they're actually dead or alive. The big adult ones, if you put the rubbing alcohol on them, they move. Well, for a very short space of time, then they die. But again, you're dealing with individual bugs with the rubbing alcohol. It's a big deal when you've got a large collection. So for me, this fumigation idea works. It's cost effective from the point, if I had to spray each plant in here and give them all a good soak, it would take me an absolute age, and what a tedious job that would be. And then you've got no guarantee that because you'd get bored. You'd do so many plants and then you start, probably, in my case anyway, you'd probably start getting a bit slapdash and perhaps missing a few leaves here and there, or not getting the undersides properly, so you'd probably miss some. And quite honestly, the systemic function on those sprays just doesn't seem to be working. I mean, the Hercoglossum, some of the new growths had some mealybugs on them, so I sprayed the whole plant. A few days later they were back. It just doesn't seem to do the job. So, yeah, I think the fumigation idea, for me, is good. There's not much of a faff, really. I mean, changing a few settings on the thermostats, really, that's all it was. And just making sure I stay safe. Make sure that I can get out and not take a breath when the smoke's in here, that sort of thing. It's standard precautions, I would say, but, I think this is my way forward. So, survivors, eggs, and some possible adult scale. You have to bear in mind the adult scale breed under that sort of limpet-like shell, and then they die. And then the crawlers emerge from underneath and start the cycle again, yeah? So the eggs are laid under that shell, and then they hatch into the crawler stage, the little white bugs that cluster together, and the cycle starts again. And given the length of time, some of those scale may well now hatch out. Yeah, so they will be starting that cycle again. So I think a few repeat processes of the old smoke, we might even get rid of scale once and for all. But it would need the repeat process in case those adult scale and the associated eggs underneath that shell are not dead. And that is quite a high possibility. They are pretty protected. If they survive the systemic and a direct spray on top of them, they're going to survive an awful lot. They are hardy little critters. But I should have wiped out any spider mites that were in here, known or unknown. They're now dead. Yeah. And again, there could be some eggs, and that cycle could start again. So a second application would do them in. So I think that's the way forward. It's cost effective for me. The time saving is dramatic. You know, it takes 5 minutes to set this place up ready to let that smoke off, and then, you know, a couple of seconds to come in the morning and fire everything up to clear the air out. Job done. Whole place, every plant done, every corner. You know, if there's anything lurking on any of the woodwork, or, you know, in round the corners of the grow room, or, you know, even on the, I mean, there's brickwork in here. Spider mites love that sort of place, you know, so it should have done the whole thing. And I'm happy with that. So, with extreme precautions for safety reasons, I think it's the way to go. I know what the telltales. So this new growth on this cattleya is an ant magnet, absolute ant magnet. I've had 5 or 6 ants on that one new growth. They love it. There's not a sign of any today. So as an assessment, I think it does the job for me. Obviously you can't use that sort of thing in your home. You know, that's not an alternative, but for something like a conservatory that can be sealed off from the house, or a standalone greenhouse, you know, brilliant. Just shut everything up, let the thing off. And it was a strange effect, because when I let the smoke off, the dense smoke that came out of the firework thing, it didn't look that much. And I thought, well, how on earth is that amount of smoke going to fill the greenhouse? But an hour later, the whole greenhouse had a really fine mist everywhere. So that smoke obviously dispersed from its denseness when it was first fired up, and it permeated the whole place. You know, I kept my eye on it through the glass, and after about an hour the whole place had a very, very fine, like a mist. So it did get to every single corner. It did do what it sort of says on the tin. So yeah, so a sort of assessment. Hopefully it's done its job, and I think I will repeat the process a few times. Obviously my bug population, as we go into autumn and into winter, that drops down as well as the plants slowing down. You know, everything slows down in you know, as we get into the cooler temperatures and the shorter days. Even the bugs don't like that, so they, you know, they don't do anywhere near as well in those months. It's just this summer's been quite bad with the heat and everything. So yeah, I think we'll do a few repeat treatments and clear the decks with any luck. As I say, it's difficult to prove because dead bugs look exactly the same as live bugs. They don't move much, and if they're not moving, how do you know if they're dead or alive? Still, it seems a good idea to me. As I said, when I first let the firework thing off, it didn't look that good. I thought that's not going to fill the grow room, but it did. In time, it thinned to a mist, and it did fill the whole place. I could see through the glass. You know, it was from the roof to the floor, in all corners. It did get to all places, and in theory, it can even permeate the media down into the pots. You know, into the bark, you know, into the moss on the mounts. In theory, it should get absolutely everywhere. So, yeah, it's difficult to prove how well it's worked or not, but it's a much, much better idea for me in here than mucking about with sprays and trying to keep up with spot treatments and Q-tips and rubbing alcohol. You know, it just hasn't been effective. So hopefully this is. Right, everything back to normal again. It's about time I got myself some breakfast. Yeah, a bit of toast to go with the coffee, rather than just the coffee, which we've already had probably too many of. Right. That's all I'm going to film today. It's 3 videos in one day. Okay, they might be a bit shorter than normal, but some of them. Tomorrow's video, because I'm out all day tomorrow with a relatively early start, so I won't be filming tomorrow. It's a garden party. I'll have a chat with the host, Alan, and if he's okay, I'll film his grow room if I can get in there, because it's just going to be a sea of people. You know, everybody there is going to want to look at his orchids. He's one of our better growers, so but I'm sure he won't mind me filming. It's just whether I can get in there, in amongst all the people, and actually film any sense. I could wait till they're all gone, I suppose. Anyway, hopefully I'll film that, and yeah, the video I will post tomorrow is my review of the grow light, part 1. You know, getting it out the box and all that sort of stuff. So that'll be tomorrow morning's video before I set off for the day. And I hope we stay dry. They do have a wet weather plan, so it's going ahead tomorrow, irrespective of whether it rains. So that's good. So see you next time.